Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Living in the world that we're living in right now, it kind of makes you think about what's true and what's not true. And that leads me into today's topic. So welcome to Nothing But Julie. I'm your host, Julie Schrager. Today I'm going to discuss conspiracy theories, and it is a topic that I've wanted to discuss for a long time because my son, who is 24, is really into conspiracy theories. He actually has beliefs in certain conspiracy theories. And so it made me wonder, really, are some of these things that he believes, are they really a conspiracy? I mean, are they true? I don't have any idea. And so the one thing that my son discusses over and over again is Illuminati. And I never really understood what that meant. So I thought, let me do some research on this. And so I came up with a few really cool things. So if you don't know what Illuminati is, it is something that has been brought up, oh my God, so much lately because of everything that's been going on in this world. And it kind of falls within the same kind of sphere as other conspiracy theories. So let's just dive right in. Let's discuss exactly what Illuminati is and where it started. And I hope that this interests you. I hope you don't get bored because it's kind of cool. And so according to Vox.com, they talk about Bavarian Illuminati. And that's a secret society that it operated for about 10 years, from 1776 to around 1785. And it was founded by a guy by the name of Adam Weishaupt, a German law professor who believed strongly in Enlightenment ideals. And he wanted to promote these ideals, and as well as educate people, people in philanthropy and different secular values that would influence like political decisions. I would say it's worked quite a bit. But it was almost kind of like taking over the world, this whole Illuminati thing. And the goal, I believe, was like in the early days, it was just like a handful of people. And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And more people started to believe in what it is. So what exactly is it, you ask? What exactly is Illuminati? Well, there's two sides to this historic take on conspiracy theories. And there's some rituals that are very, very odd and did a lot of unusual things. And they use certain symbols like an owl. And if you look at certain diagrams, certain photos, you'll see almost kind of like a hidden replica of an owl. And sometimes you have to really, really look. It's like a pseudonym to avoid identification. And so apparently there were different reports of rituals that are kind of hard to confirm, but apparently the members of this whole Illuminati thing are somewhat paranoid, but also kind of spy-like. So they really do believe in things like this. And while they were following certain rituals, they also started this worldwide kind of enlightenment ideal that made their beliefs seem rational. And like you would have to question if you're sane, if what you're believing in is really the truth. And it just, I think, is pretty cool to actually make yourself think about these things. I don't know how much I believe in it. Um, and let's start off with Illuminati controlling the world. And I don't know if you've heard about all these different celebrities like Beyonce that have become a part of this particular group, and they've paid millions and millions and millions of dollars that if the world comes to an end or something like this, they're going to be saved. I don't, I don't know how true that is. But it is very influential. And they also do use different symbols aside from the owl. They use kind of like a triangle also, and it's kind of really hard to untangle how successful Illuminati has become. And so this is what I read on Vox.com, and I quote, "We do know that Illuminati had some influential members, along with many dukes and other leaders who were powerful but are forgotten today." And it goes on to say, in a way, Illuminati influence depends on what you believe about them. If you think their revolutionary ideals spread to other groups like the French Revolution's Jacobins or Jacobins, then they were successful. I don't really know too much about that. But many of their ideals and ideas have prospered. So they talk about why did the real Illuminati disappear? And apparently they were wiped out. People tried to revive them over the years, but it became some kind of like a money making, ploy. And so back in 1785, the Duke of Bavaria, Karl Theodor, banned secret societies, including Illuminati. And so that's one of the reasons why they were completely wiped out. And they also disbanded this particular group. But because it disbanded, the myth expanded. And so it still continued, might not have continued with having groups of people, but the myth of this particular conspiracy theory of Illuminati just continued. And here we are in 2020. People are still talking about it. So the question is, how did their legend live on? And apparently, after they were disbanded, this is when the conspiracy theories about the group started. So they talk about in Vox.com that the most famous conspiracy theories were authored by a physicist by the name of John Robinson. And he accused the Illuminati of infiltrating the Freemasons. Sorry, I always do that. The Freemasons. I don't know if you know too much about that. It's pretty cool if you read up on it. And historians, saw all of this as like the first in a long line of conspiracy theories. And the founding fathers actually managed to have an interest in Illuminati in the United States. And George Washington apparently wrote a letter addressing the threat of Illuminati. And in this panic, it caused people who were against Illuminati. He Thomas Jefferson, actually, he was talking about. He was uh, blaming or accusing Thomas Jefferson of being a member of Illuminati, this particular group. So yet again, the whole Illuminati panic kind of fizzled out, and then it sprang up again. So it's kind of cool when you think about it, how these conspiracy theories start and how they become kind of like legendary, and why do people, still believe in certain conspiracy theories like Illuminati? I think it's because it never completely disappeared from culture. I think it was always there, and it became more popular and then less popular and more popular and less popular. You know how trends are when they just kind of like become huge and then they start to fizzle out and something takes its place. But I think it was always in the background. And apparently in the mid 70s, according to Vox.com, Illuminati made a marked comeback, and that has to do with some kind of a trilogy um, that gave the group like spooky images that it holds today. So it's kind of like a great example of like how to separate the elite forms of power from just us regular folk. And I believe that it was actually brought up in a novel of Angels and Demons also. I don't know if you ever read that, but I think there was a movie about it. And then it talks about if Jay-Z and Kanye and Beyonce are really a part of this whole Illuminati, because there are pictures of them holding their hands up in a triangle symbol. I mean, kind of makes you think that even though Jay-Z, um, I think it has something to do with their record label, that maybe they were, holding their hands up to look like this because, I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe they just were getting paid to do it. Who knows? But Vox.com actually contacted Kanye West and Jay-Z spokespeople who did not return their request for comment. But apparently Jay-Z has previously said that he does think that rumors of his membership in the Illuminati are stupid. And Kanye West said it's ridiculous. But maybe they were paid to say that. Who knows? I mean, it's just like a worldwide phenomenon. And people are like, if I talk about this, am I going to get killed? And it says, if they do exist, you already know too much. So they just wanted to start off my conspiracy theory topic by bringing that up. And it's quite interesting. I actually like conspiracy theories. They make me think about, logic and being rational versus being irrational. Some people don't even want to hear about it. And so let's now dive into some of the conspiracy theories that have happened throughout the years. And I'm going to start off. This is from Time.com about their conspiracy theories list that they came out with. I'm not exactly sure when this was. There's no date, but I'm going to bring up a few conspiracy theories, and then I'm going to delve into a few more with more descriptions. But I'm just going to name a few. They discuss the JFK assassination as being a conspiracy theory. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes you think. I think that's the whole point of conspiracy theories too, just to make you think outside the general box of, you hear news, you believe it, and that's it. Well, there are other people that believe that maybe something happened for a totally different reason, such as the assassination of JFK. There's also a conspiracy theory about a cover up with 9/11. I don't know how much I believe that. I have to be honest with you. I would really have to be convinced that is a conspiracy theory. And then, of course, Area 51 and aliens. I I really think that there is an Area 51. I don't know if there's aliens, but I do believe that there is something like Area 51 out there that might be hiding the truth of certain things from people. What that might be, I don't know. I don't really know if it's aliens. And then we have the moon landings were faked. Ay, 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 ay. That I don't believe. How about you? I really believe that happened, obviously. But again, what would life be like without a conspiracy theory? And this kind of bothers me. The Holocaust revisionism. Oh boy, that one kind of gets my goat. But moving on, I was on Wikipedia and I was looking up a bunch of different conspiracy theories. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of other websites I can go to, but one thing I like about Wikipedia is how they kind of outline everything. And they break it down. So for example, they talk about conspiracy theories with aviation. And I want to talk about chemtrails because a lot of people do believe in chemtrails, and I get it. I get why they believe in it. Um, I'm kind of on the fence with it. I'm not saying I disbelieve it, and I'm not saying I truly believe it. I'm on the fence with it. And so let's talk about chemtrails, which is they talk about SLAP, which is a secret large scale atmospheric program. And this theory basically states that the water condensation trails, which are called contrails from aircrafts, um, consist of a chemical or like a biological agent. And it apparently or supposedly has a toxic mix of a few chemicals, including aluminum and barium. And this is all under secret government policies. And there's a certain percentage of people that do believe this theory to be true or partly true. And back in 2016, and I'm quoting, the Carnegie Institute for Science published the first ever peer reviewed study of the chemtrail theory. And 76 out of 77 participating atmospheric chemists and geochemists stated that they had seen no evidence to support the chemtrail theory, or stated that chemtrail theorists rely on poor sampling. I live in Florida, and a few months ago during COVID, there were these lines in the sky. And at first I thought, what in the hell is that? And then I thought, oh my God, is this a chemtrail? And I went on Facebook, and lo and behold, there were people that were discussing what's going on in the skies over Florida. And people said chemtrails. And it's horrible because they believe that it's actual spraying from airplanes to go, down into, I guess, farms, pesticides for spraying farming here in Florida. So that's one of the things that I was thinking about as well. I wonder how true that is. Okay. I'm going to also discuss, if you might remember this, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 conspiracy theory. You remember hearing about it disappearing in Southeast Asia in 2014? That was Malaysia Airlines, and it disappeared, gone. So, of course, that prompted many theories. And one theory suggests that the plane was hidden away, and then it was reintroduced as a different flight later that same year in order for it to, quote, be shot down over Ukraine for political purposes. Wow. It kind of makes you think. I mean, you think something like this could be true, that there's like an American, there's a conspiracy theory about something about an airline, or I should say an airplane just disappearing like that. There are American conspiracy theorists, yes, I have to say that slow, that actually put this responsibility of this disappearance with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Because I always say it wrong. Everyone makes fun of me. I always say Netanyahu. Try saying it really, really fast if you can. Netanyahu, Netanyahu, Netanyahu. Well, anyway, this was a conspiracy theory. How does an airplane just disappear? I mean, come on. How does it just disappear? Well, people say, well, the thing blew up into gazillions and gazillions of pieces, and then it floated to the bottom of the ocean. That is not a theory. That's what people are saying happened. But conspiracy theorists look at this in a different way. And they believe that something else really happened. Which kind of leads me into the Deepwater Horizon. Do you guys remember that? They even made a movie about it with Mark Wahlberg. Wow. That was back in 2010 when the oil rig had an accident and it blew up. And in the movie, it depicts that the oil from the ground, and it had something to do with faulty, I forget what, excuse me, I forget what it is that was faulty, but it was like that tube that goes from the bottom of the ocean into the actual oil rig. And it exploded and therefore caused a huge explosion on the rig, a fire killing a few people. And I believe this was BP. And so there's conspiracy theories that pertain to this accident in the Gulf of Mexico. And people believe that it was sabotage. Sabotage for those people who promote the environment. Some other people believe that it was a strike by North Korea or even a Russian submarine. Those are, a little far-fetched, I'd say, and in theories, but you never know, right? I think that Rush Limbaugh is one of those people who kind of like pushed this conspiracy theory. All right. Do you guys remember the new Coke? It went from like a different formula with the new Coke, and there's some kind of theory that as to why they changed it, and that they changed it to a worse, kind of cheaper formula using like cheaper ingredients. And then they did that with the intention of driving up demand for the actual original product. And people are saying that's the reason why they did it. What a great campaign. What a great thing to do to try and trick the Americans. But I don't know if it actually did. There were people who they lost a lot of money in doing that. And I don't know if you remember back in 2010, but people were really pissed off and they were going crazy over this change. But of course, you still have conspiracy theorists that believe that there was a particular reason why they did it. It had nothing to do with something just as simple as wanting to maybe bring back the old Coca-Cola. All right, let's talk about deaths and disappearances. Oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me. Disappearances. Let's talk about disappearances. Should I start with ones back in the 1600s or more recent? Let's go to modern times. I'm going to bring up JFK again. And you know that there have been tons of conspiracy theories. And there's been thousands of books written about the Kennedy assassination. And there's groups that believe that that this whole thing was a conspiracy. Some people even believe that he was still alive. And that is why it's been called the mother of all conspiracies. There have been individuals and organizations that have thought of different conspiracy theories, and that that the government is intentionally covering up crucial information. But here's the question I have. I don't think that some of these people were entirely wrong. And why? Because why are all of the books, why is all of the paperwork, why is that under lock and key for such a long time? And it has not been unlocked, and supposedly won't be unlocked for a few more years, and they're even fighting that it stays under lock and key. So if it really wasn't a conspiracy, or if things were not already known by the government, then why are they hiding all of this information? That's something I don't understand. But that kind of turned into questioning the deaths of other prominent figures like Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King. And the question is, even Princess Diana, you know, and it kind of makes you think, was it a conspiracy or was it just a simple assassination? Not that it's a simple thing. And there's even conspiracy theories about the Adolf Hitler, and that he survived the Second World War, and that apparently he fled to America. People have said that he got to the moon or he got to Antarctica. These theories that Hitler survived are apparently were deliberately promoted by the Soviet Union. under Joseph Stalin's reign, just to have a disinformation campaign to let people think that the Holocaust either never happened or whatever. And that is just so sad. I don't even want to get into that. Um, did you ever hear about the Denver airport? I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but the Denver airport, apparently, some theorists believe, and I'm quoting according to Wikipedia, that the Denver International Airport stands above an underground city which serves as a headquarters of the New World Order. And theorists cite that airport's unusually large size, its distance from Denver's city center, and alleged satanic symbols, as well as a set of murals which include depictions of war and death. Oh boy. Do you know what the New World Order is? It's like a group of elites, like international elites that control the government, and media. And the goal is hegemony and to like carry out secretly staged events and manipulate economies. And so that's what the New World Order is. So again, it does kind of make you think. Um, I had discussed Freemasonry earlier, but I didn't say what it was. I just used it in a sentence, and that is about the Freemasons that have been since the 18th century, and theorists believe or alleged that they control a huge part of the economy, and a bunch of countries uh, believe the involvement in events surrounding the sinking of the Titanic and the crimes of Jack the Ripper. Uh, and it's been a conspiracy for geez since back in the 1800s, linked to also certain anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So makes you wonder. Okay, moving on. I am going to discuss with you on a different angle or a different level espionage and conspiracy theories. And did you ever hear about the Israel animal spying? Oh yeah, that's a real good one. I've heard of that before, and it alleges that Israel actually uses animals to conduct espionage or to actually attack people. I don't know how I feel about that. It's also about the theory of Zionism. Uh, I I don't think so. That one's a little bit of a reach for me. But they even discuss anti-Semitism and conspiracy theories with that, and they talk about even since the Middle Ages, um, anti-Semitism featured elements of conspiracy theory. I'm quoting that, and it started back in medieval Europe, where it was believed that Jews poisoned wells, and that I'm not going to say this because I think it's a little too controversial, but uh, in the second half of the 19th century, you might remember me talking about there's notions of Jews and the Freemasons that we were, we, that they were plotting to take over the world. And another conspiracy theory relates to Marxism. I remember that my son had to do something about Marxism in college. This was like it encompassed his whole semester, and he was discussing it with me, and it was very, very interesting. But it was this notion that Jews were the ones who were responsible for the propagation of communism. I mean, again, another conspiracy theory about anti-Semitism. I don't think that any of this is true. I think it's just what people believe to be true. But it's kind of in the same range as Holocaust denial, which is another anti-Semitic conspiracy theory because they believe that the Holocaust was a hoax, and that it was designed, and I quote, to advance the interests of Jews and justify the creation of the state of Israel. This is from the same people who say shit about Jews, who feed, absolutely feed on the bullshit because it helps them to sleep at night. And that is just a very controversial conspiracy theory, one that I do not believe in. I'm not going to really talk much about religion or the Antichrist and Islam because I just, in this world, I don't think it's a very good idea. But what I will talk about is extraterrestrials and UFOs. So, like I said before, I don't know if Area 51 really consists of aliens, but it does make you think. And that's what conspiracy theories are about, to really just make you take a step back and think about maybe a possible alternative to, everyday, regular theories, or this is exactly why this happened. And um, there were allegations that there was a cover up from the government with do you remember the Roswell incident? It was a UFO incident with Area 51. So they believe that there was a conspiracy theory with that. And apparently there were rumors, some kind of speculation back in the 1940s that the the Air Force balloon crash at this ranch near Roswell, Mexico. People gathered debris from this crash site, and that they're saying that it came from a flying disc. And yet the military was saying, listen, it was just a weather balloon, people. But because someone put it out there, it raised a conspiracy theory. If you want to read about it, I would. It's about the Roswell UFO incident, and it's pretty cool to read about that. Um, and then dead cattle and body parts. Well, I can't even read this out to you guys. I was going to quote it, but I'm not going to. But multiple reports of dead cattle were found, and this was what, the 1960s, and it was a phenomenon that people believed that aliens were ripping apart these cows for military experiments. I'm sorry, some of this stuff really does make me laugh. But that kind of makes you think about extraterrestrials and UFOs, and does it really exist? And again, you kind of have that, well, what, maybe it does, or why not? It kind of brings me back into, Illuminati, um, back in the 18th century. And then again, today, this whole secret society. Um, I, I, I think about what it was like back in the 19th century, and conservatives in Europe. And they had this belief that the group was responsible for the French Revolution, and hoaxes being spread, like in the 60s, by like practical jokers who wrote fake letters to Playboy about Illuminati. I think that people thrive off of it, and that also leads me into 9/11 and the conspiracy theories that ensued from that. Now, I don't believe in them, but I will tell you that it makes it very attractive to conspiracy theorists. And they would reference different things and as to why it might have happened. And one of the most common theories, according to Wikipedia, is that the attacks were in fact controlled demolitions. That theory was rejected by the engineering profession, by the way, and the 9/11 Commission. Let's talk about the Clintons. This is something that I read that I don't I didn't even hear about until I was reading it, and that apparently um, former U.S. President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have assassinated 50 or more of their associates. Uh, I really don't think that that's happened. But these accusations have been around since the 90s, because there was this pseudo documentary that was called The Clinton Chronicles. And it prompted, it was prompted by Reverend Jerry Falwell. And he accused the Clintons of crimes, including murder. And what about Jeffrey Epstein's death? Now that just recently happened, right? What do you think about that? Do you think that he hung himself? This messed up piece of shit person. I don't care really how he died. I'm just happy he did die. Although I would have liked him to have paid for what he did. But he was an American financier and he was a billionaire convicted of sex offenders, being a sex offender. And he has ties to, well, who else? Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, just, more of the elite tribe. And people don't believe that what was reported as far as his death goes is true. I don't know. How do you feel about that? I don't know. There's conspiracy theories about Barack Obama as well, and Marxism and deep state, and we can go in. I can go into all of that, which I won't. I'm going to take a little bit of a turn into medicine, and I'm going to talk about COVID for a second. And everything I am telling you right now is coming from Wikipedia. So they talk about the number of conspiracy theories that have been promoted about the motive behind SARS COVID 2 and its spread. And people claimed that, quote, the virus was engineered, that it escaped or was stolen from a research laboratory, and that it may have been a Chinese or United States bioweapon, and or spread as part of a Muslim conspiracy, a population to control the population, a scheme to control the population, or related to 5G mobile phone networks. I don't know if you've heard a lot about 5G, but you should read about it and how much it's messed up, really messed up. But Pastor Rodney Howard-Browne claims that the pandemic was a planned event. And he based that on the Rockefeller Foundation document. I'm not too sure about what that is. I guess you could look that up. But he says that he details a hypothetical global pandemic and a lot of similarities to the COVID-19 outbreak. But it also talks about how Bill Gates is a part of this. And that is something that I have read about, that he manufactured this event with the goal of mass vaccinations in order to reduce the human population. People have been talking about, and if you look it up, if you go on to TED Talks, there is a long interview with Bill Gates discussing a inevitable pandemic and why back then we need to prepare. And so people, instead of looking at that as being smart and being aggressive and being proactive, are saying he's the one that created this whole COVID because he was talking about it. So if you have a chance, go to TED Talks and look it up. It's pretty cool. Which brings me into conspiracy theories about vaccination, and it's been claimed that the pharmaceutical industry they have a cover up between vaccines and autism, and we all know about Jenny McCarthy and her stance with vaccines and autism because her son is autistic, and she believed that the vaccines that her son got caused autism, and the conspiracy theory developed back in '98. Actually, by a paper that was discredited from a former doctor. And this resulted in the anti-vaccine movement. And it prompted a lot of people, a lot of celebrities like Jim Carrey, to, well, I guess I could say that it's led to an increased rate of infection and death from diseases because people in many countries are not vaccinating their children. Um, I worked in schools for 12 years, and my last job was at a high school. And I can't tell you how many people came in with their unvaccinated children because they say that it's against their religion. And believe it or not, the school district of Palm Beach County allows that, allows unvaccinated children to register and participate in public school if there is documentation that it's against a person's religion. Whether it's against someone's religion or someone just doesn't want their child to get vaccinated is a personal choice, and I have my own opinions about it. But everyone has their own opinion if they believe that it could cause some kind of autism or other disease. So it's interesting to read about that. So anyway, moving on. Let's talk about sports. Do you guys, I don't know if you remember this with the New England Patriots. And there have been so many conspiracy theories with the Patriots being involved in, well, things that they've done. And so this again is from Wikipedia. And if you don't know about it, you should. I think that this was huge that the Patriots were advanced because there was a conspiracy that was spread that stated that the referees helped the Patriots advance to the Super Bowl. However, there was a sports analyst that stated that the Jaguars that went against the Patriots were not robbed, but they had no one to blame but themselves for the loss. But there's also been discussion about the lineup between the Patriots and the Falcons, and that the game was rigged. And that others say that the Falcons made questionable calls about their plays at the end of the game that resulted in them blowing a 28-3 lead. Do you guys remember that? I remember Deflategate. So those are a few of my conspiracies that some I believe, some I don't, some you just have to kind of think about a little bit more than others. I think it's very interesting when we talk about conspiracies, because one of the other topics that I did on my podcast was about myths, and it's I guess a little bit relatable. I guess it's really what you believe in, based on who you are, your religion, possibly your personality. Maybe you are easily swayed. Maybe you do believe that these things have happened. I don't know if some of these things that have occurred are conspiracy theories or if it's just a truth to it. So it's something that, really makes you think. And it will make you continue to think because of the upcoming presidential election and the involvement with the last presidential election, and getting out there and voting and making sure that you have a voice. Whoever you decide to vote for, you have a voice. Don't forget that. And we don't want to lose that voice, which is why it's important that you go and you vote next Tuesday. And if you all don't know this, I believe Sunday, I think that we changed the clock back an hour. Yay for losing an hour. I wish they'd change that in Florida. I really do. But anyway, I hope you like this podcast. I've got some new things lined up coming up possibly next week and the week after, and I'm really excited about. So feel free to contact me. You can get in touch with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with my username, Nothing But Julie. And feel free to Feel free to subscribe and review my podcast. I hope you really liked it, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.